Welcome to another episode of This is Bet On TCREG. My name is Randy Mbuge, and this is the phenomenal Chase Sloan. We are the Chasing Real Estate Group. And today, we are going to talk about steps to identify your true tribe, lead with purpose, continuously learn from those around you, and then we'll end with a powerful homework assignment for you to continue empowering your lives and those around you.
Absolutely. So welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever you're working through this. Randy, it's good to see you again.
Likewise, back with another episode.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so excited about this episode because, like Randy said, we're looking to talk about how to find your tribe. And Randy, the reason why this is important is because if you're like me, then you find yourself sometimes going out looking to build community. And even with the greatest intentions, over time you realize it's still a disconnect. Has that ever happened to you?
I think for me, there has been like chapters of just loneliness in that sense of like, sometimes it doesn't feel like the people that I have around me are really supporting my goals and my ambitions. And so I've felt like that before.
Yeah.
Truly.
You know, it reminds me of this story. I remember my mom used to tell it to me when I was younger. She said, you know, once upon a time there was this guy and he had the opportunity to decide between heaven and hell. And so he gets to the afterlife or whatever the situation was. He goes to the priest and he says, well, why is hell so bad? Show it to me. And so they get out there and he walks them through the hallways and he takes him to the room and says hell on it. And he looks and there's this long feast of a table. It's all this food, anything that you can imagine or want to eat. And he noticed that everybody sitting at the table was really weak. They were emaciated. They were starving. They were miserable. And he was like, why are they so hungry? There's all this food on the table. And he realized that they had these chopsticks and they were 12 feet long. And so what was happening is that anytime they tried to get food from the table, by the time they brought it to their mouth, the food would fall off the chopsticks. So nobody actually ate or was able to, get food. He says, well, I'm tired of looking at this. Take me to heaven. And so the priest says, okay, no problem. They walk down the hallway. They go to the next room. It says heaven on it. And same situation, same table, same group of people, except these people, they're jolly, they're laughing, they're full of life, they've got meat on their bones. Same thing, same 12-inch chopsticks. But the difference was that instead of trying to feed themselves, they were using the chopsticks to reach across the table and feed each other. And the priest looks at him, he says, in heaven we feed each other. And Randy, the reason why I want to share that story is because I think a lot of time when we talk about community and we talk about building our tribe, the core of all of that and in being able to succeed is this idea of collaboration over competition. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I feel as if that a lot of the times we can get so caught up in like, it's about me. It's about what I have going on, and I need to eat, instead of thinking, well, if I was to look to feed everyone else, I know that without a doubt, I will also be fed.
Absolutely. Now, the challenge, of course, is making sure that the person that you're feeding has the same mindset that you do, right? You can't feed somebody else and then at the same time, they're trying to feed themselves. And I believe that's a lot of times why we find disconnect and discord in our tribes, or find out that we're not actually aligned with the people that we associate with, because there has never been a conversation on what do you believe to be true? What is your mindset? How do you think about success? How do you think about collaboration? How do you think about doing this thing together? How do you think about creating your own heaven here on earth? And it made me think about this. I got some notes, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit, yet it made me think about the difference between what it is to be authentic and what it is to be aligned. And I think sometimes we mistakenly use those words interchangeably. And what I've learned is that being authentic to yourself, that's all about who you are. That's all about what you believe, whatever that looks like. Embracing those qualities that make you unique, embracing those qualities that others know, love, and trust about you, right? Once you define who you are, you're able to be more authentic. And that is a journey. That is a lifelike journey. You're constantly evolving around that. But then it takes a step further to get into alignment. After you know who you are, how do I get in business or in relationship with people who are like me? And they said aligned living goes beyond authenticity by ensuring that your actions, thoughts, and feelings are in harmony with your purpose and your goals. So I said a lot. Let's talk about it. What are your thoughts between being authentic and being aligned?
I think that in the world that we're in right now, I would say that a lot of people maybe struggle with being authentic, right? That it's easier for me to look to adjust myself and my beliefs and my values to serve everyone else instead of understanding that if I'm not to serve myself and be true to who I am and what I want to do, who I'm striving to become, I'm now at war with myself,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that's it's and it's painful. I would say that it's very painful that we see this a lot of times where people are looking to impress other people and not okay with who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe that the lie that we tell ourselves is that being authentic is common, that you should be able to find yourself in the majority of people. I was scrolling on Threads and I saw somebody, they said something like, if you find yourself having a disconnect with most of humanity, maybe it's not the people and maybe it's you. And I said, well, that's not necessarily true because it's my belief, and this is me, Chase Sloan, don't at me. If you are really clear in who you are, what you believe, what you value, what's important, what your purpose is, and what your goals are, you may find that you're actually not in alignment with most people. And a lot of that is because most people haven't done the work to even define that for themselves. So how can we say that we are, and I think that we've gotten into this world, this society where inclusion's a big buzzword, right? And I might be anti-inclusion. I know that's cancelable offense. However, I don't know at this point in my life if my goal is to be included with just everybody.
You know, when we like to think about like older people who are about 70, 80, 90 years old and how they kind of look at life and they're like, I really don't care. I really don't care. It's whatever that you think about me. If you believe that's true, it is what it is, and we carry on. And I'm consistently reminded when I think about even my own family members, when I look at my great grandma and I see that she's 103 years old and she's continuing to
Oh,
walk and
grandma?
and you see how carefree she is.
Yeah.
And it's like going back to the Nipsey Hussle quote of I'd rather be at war with the world than to be at war with myself.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'd rather be at peace with who I am and the things that I'm striving to do instead of looking to please everyone else.
It's the entire idea of choosing your heart, right?
But
Let's
you got to
not
do the work.
confuse this
Yeah.
conversation that getting to heaven or living in hell is either way. Is easy either way. There's going to be a sacrifice. There's going to be a challenge that comes with both. However, the difference is, are you doing the work on what you want out of your life? And that is not a group project. I tell you all the time, life is not a group project. It's a collaborative one, but it's not group, right? And so it's important, especially the reason why we want to talk about this, because when we're looking to get into any type of partnership, the first thing that you have to do is ask yourself the question, who am I?
Who am I?
Right? Whose life am I leading and how do I know? I ask that question a lot because I think it is the foundational question for us to be able to have any other future conversations.
I like that. I like that. And I think the reason why it's so powerful is because we must then ask ourselves, as you're saying, like, who am I and how do you know? And what things are you putting in place so that you continue to be as self aware as possible? And so, even for me, I know that when you're talking about who you are, something that really helped me when I was younger is I used to journal a lot. And the reason I would journal so that I could get my thoughts, feelings, and just anything, the ideas even down on paper so that then by doing it, am I noticing like either a commonality between the thoughts or a lot of my days similar? What are things that I do need to address? How did this make me feel? And so I was looking to become almost as self-aware as possible so that as I continue to look to be an adult, I could actually articulate what I was thinking or feeling.
It's important because what we realize is that success leaves clues. We know that, right? And even in our own lives, we also know that there are common threads that connect everything that we do. I can remember back to elementary school, I would be chosen to help other classmates read or help, class, and this was like fifth grade. I remember that. And then I remember, having a mentor in college or having a mentor in middle school. And then when I got to college, that was a passion because I knew how much my mentor impacted my life. I wanted to be able to do the same. So when I got in college, I was mentoring students. I was mentoring neighborhood children in the community. I got out of that. I got into real estate, and then I got into a nonprofit organization known as KW Next Gen. I'm doing the same thing. I'm mentoring the next generation of leaders to be able to take action in their life. And even with our clients, my passion, the reason why I do what I do, yes, it's because I like to sell homes and I like to, stand with the closing side. And yet more importantly, it's because I have a passion to help our community build wealth and close that wealth gap. So what I noticed is that the themes throughout my life has always been servant leadership. And when you are able to really kind of sit with that, I think you get clarity on your personal mission, which allows you to get clarity on what you say yes and what you say no to.
I like that because when you said, for you, something that's been more so a mission is to make sure that you're doing more so like servant leadership. I would say for me, something that came top of mind was transformational leadership and how I show up for other people and how I look to lead by example and how people can almost be like, you know what? I love the way that you lead. I love the way that you show up. I want to, embody some of those characteristics. And so then I was able to look to transfer that knowledge and ensure that they're also able to empower their lives and people that they come across as well. So I think that servant leadership is just it's one of, if not the highest way to also be a leader.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I believe what's important also is that with clarity comes control and the release of control. Because what I found, even in, I would write out my personal mission. And I remember, the first time I wrote out my personal mission, it was so elaborate. It was so all the words, all the things. I'm here to, do all this stuff. It was really attached to being able to help people build strong communities by investing in real estate and business. And then I realized I can't control that. That is not something that I can make anyone do. So I actually had to go back and refine my personal mission. And to this day, it's to create spaces that restore the soul, inspire the mind, and fund the future. Because what I can control is the conversation I create and the space I create. And that's really been the compass for my life.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I would say that, at least for me, because what happened was when I first did my personal mission statement in like 2019, I was like, oh, it's to inspire, it's that to show the world that there are no limits to what we as humans can do, which nothing wrong with the personal mission statement. I do think that, was it enough to actually get me out of bed? Was it enough to actually turn me from being an entrepreneur, hua, instead of like, well, how can I be more purposeful in what I'm doing and why I'm doing it? And so now today, I would say that my personal mission is to look to inspire young adults and kids who feel empty inside through my actions and verbal prowess.
Yeah.
And that is something that I can align with in regards to, I must continue to show up within my own personal life so that then they can see, oh, he is exactly who he said he was.
Yeah.
And also, if I'm able to say a line, a sentence, a paragraph that just changes the entire, honestly, reality that they thought was real so that they can shift their perspective into something that actually serves them.
Yeah. And what I love about this is the idea that it's okay to date a personal mission. I think a lot of times we're afraid to write it down because we want it to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, I don't know who my audience is, right? Who are my people? Have you ever, you receive a piece of paper or a worksheet and it's like you don't write on the one that they give you, you write on your notebook first so that way you could get the rough draft off and then you transfer the perfect draft to whatever that other sheet of paper is. And a lot of times that's a perfection complex. It's this idea that I can't scratch it out. I don't want to mess up the page, yet life doesn't work that way. Life is full of scratch outs. Life is full of torn pages and re-clarifying and readjusting based off of the new evidence that you have in front of you. So when we talk about our personal mission or when we talk about our tribes and who you look to be in alignment with, understand that you gotta kind of date that idea for a minute and see, is this it?
Right.
Right?
Right. I mean, and the thing is too is that it continues to evolve, and I think that that's actually probably based off of they call it like exposure therapy in regards to like you need to go and experience it or see it enough times to be like, this is what I want to do, this is not what I want to do, and then continue to determine if you know this is your personal mission statement, and does it actually get you out of bed?
You know, there's this idea that life is all about balance, work-life balance, family and friends balance. And I'll tell you this, friends, mediocrity happens in the middle. Nothing in life is balanced. I'm a Libra, shout out. Even if you look at a scale, it's constantly adjusting and adapting, right? So if you think about balance as a straight line throughout, and that mediocrity lies in the middle, then what you really want to get great at is this idea of counterbalance. And when do we go long and when do we go short? So, Randy, I remember I was sharing with you that we want to look at it like in our professional life, we want to go long. And this might be a period of discomfort. So if you're watching this, if you've ever committed to a long-term goal, whether that is college or getting through high school or studying for a professional degree, right? You may be uncomfortable for a very long period of time. Doctors, for example, they're uncomfortable for like 8 years before they even start making money, right? And then they make an adjustment and they go into whatever field here, right? And then they do that again, and you might do that here. And so in your professional life, we want you to go long. But Randy, there's another side to that too. And that's your personal life.
Speak on it.
And in your personal life, we want to teach you guys that it's important that you learn how to pivot quickly, right? So say, for example, whether it's your friends or your relationships or whatever it is that has an impact on how you show up in the world, we don't want you stuck here for 5 or 10 years and then you realize like, oh, that was a bad decision, right? So in your personal life, you may make adjustments like this, right? Because you, again, if you're clear on who you are, what's important and your values and your beliefs, then you want to be able to recognize those clues quickly. I think a lot of times, whether we're talking about friends or relationships, we find the opposite. People are going short in their careers and long in their relationships. And then we wonder why the world's upside down.
You know what's crazy though? There was a point in time I was doing this in both. So both in my career and both in my personal relationships, and I could see the turmoil show up 6 months to a year later because I was so distracted. And that's why when we talk about people ask, how are you so focused? How are you so consistent now? It's like, well, I would argue that it is probably easier to look to actually focus on 1 to maybe 2 goals or tasks at a time, so that then you're not in this gaggle, like in the military, you just call it one big gaggle, you know? So, and it's unclear. And because it's unclear, you don't know what to do.
Yeah, so it's just really important. We just wanted to, like I said, touch on this. Our goal is to leave you guys with, the tools that you'll need so that way you can create a life by design. And the first question that you have to get clear on is, who am I? Whose life am I leading? And how do I know, right? So amen, Randy. We're going to pin that for a moment because we actually are a real estate company specializing in real estate here in the Houston greater metropolitan area and all around the world. And so let's talk about what's happening in the market, Randy. What's going on?
So we like to more so talk about the actual months of inventory, right? And so in us looking to talk about the months of inventory so that you have an actual, I guess you could say, more so projection of what's happening so that you can look to make informed decisions. And so right now, we're sitting on a 3.1 months supply last more so from July to so we're sitting at a month supply of 4.3 months right now. I had it backwards. And
it's
so
expanding.
Yes,
right?
So meaning that we have more inventory now than we did this same time last year.
And what's important about that, and the reason why we continuously bring this conversation up, is because this is how smart people make decisions, right? And a lot of times, so you have seen the meme, waiting for the housing market to crash so I can take my advantage, right? Waiting for the market to slow down so I can take my advantage. Well, how does that show up? How do you know? How do you understand the real estate market if you don't study it every day like Randy and I do, for example? So the way that we measure that, we tell you every conversation, is through the months of inventory. So what Randy is saying, that over the past year, inventory has increased by almost 1.5 months. So there are more homes available for sale for smart buyers to take advantage of. And there's also another conversation that we need to have, and I want to have that right now with my sellers. So if you're looking to sell a home, understand that there are 3 different markets that are currently happening right now. There's the premium market, there's the There's premium market. There's premium market and there's wholesale. Okay. And so if you think about it, everybody
falls into one of those three categories.
Everybody falls into one of these three categories. And I'm going to tell you how we have that conversation with our sellers, okay? So market means that your house looks like everybody else's house. There's nothing special, there's nothing extra, and you've kind of kept pace with the trends, and you're probably going to get fair market value for that house, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. Premium means that you've done some things, okay? Maybe you did some upgrades, you upgraded the appliances, you remodeled the bathroom, you changed the floors, you added an outdoor cover, patio, you've done a lot of stuff, and you're gonna be able to command a higher price for that, right? And then there's wholesale. And this is the neglected homes. And I know that we don't like to have that conversation. However, some homes we know haven't done anything since they bought the home. Challenge is that people that are in this market try to get this price. And Randy, that's why we're seeing inventory increase. Because what's happening is that buyers have options, which means they can be a little bit more selective in their decision.
Right.
You know, let me show you what that shows up like from a data perspective. If we look at homes from the $150,000 and below price point, understand that those homes have decreased in performance sales by 17%. So these are those wholesale homes, those off-market homes, those distressed homes, those homes in those neighborhoods that you say are being gentrified and people should be paying you $1 million for your lot. That's actually not true. Because what we know, Randy, is that number one, the reason why home sales are slowing down is because interest rates are up, so the economy is a little bit different. Money is a little bit different. So what I caution you is that if you are one of these owners that maybe you inherited a property, maybe you just moved out the property and it's been vacant, right? Hell, maybe you've got a tenant or had a tenant and they tore up the property. If we don't get that price right, not only will you not get that wholesale value, you'll probably be on a slippery slope.
So now let me ask you a question. Why is it that people want to take, their home that you're saying it's at wholesale right here, it's at wholesale price? Why or how even are they thinking that now they can go and get the premium price?
Well, the problem is that no one's having a full conversation, okay? So you're having information being given to you from maybe you watching a reel, right? Maybe you're watching our podcast. Maybe you're watching somebody on the internet. And this idea that all homes are created equal, and they're simply not. See, the thing about real estate, Randy, is that you must have somebody in your corner that is in alignment with your goals that's going to tell you the truth.
100%.
And it's very hard to do that because I go on listing appointments all the time with sellers and they want to, look at these premium baseboards with these tough top nails. Nobody is looking at that. What they're actually looking at is how many bugs and cobwebs and scary things are in your doorway, right? What they're actually looking at are what are the things that you have not repaired in your home, the deferred maintenance. See, I always tell people, Randy, you're going to pay it when you come in or when you're going. So you're going to live in your house and you're going to do the updates and the upgrades that you do. I recommend that you do a project once a year. So maybe you change the carpet. Maybe you power wash the house. Maybe you go ahead and replace some of the fixtures in the home. You do one project a year so that way you're not left with a laundry list when it's time to sell your home. But like I said, Randy, the reason why people think this when they're here is because one, nobody has shown them this. And then two, we all want to believe that we are the best, right? I've been to my neighbor's house. I've seen their house. It's not that great. I saw their house too, and better than yours.
Instead of maybe like the actual data like we're talking about to actually make the informed decisions. And what I find interesting about this is that when we do go look at properties that may be premium, we're like, well, I see that there is a premium price, or I see why it's the highest listed in the neighborhood. I may want to get it for market value or for wholesale value. And it's like, well, then how does that make sense?
Yeah.
Considering that this may actually be the best home in the neighborhood or the subdivision.
And here's what I know, Randy. Sometimes even when you are the best home in the neighborhood, strategically, you price yourself to compete with the market. Because understand, like I said, when buyers have more decisions, what they're looking to do is find the best in the competition. So I always say it like this. Let's just say, for example, we want to buy a computer.
Right.
We go to Best Buy, okay? There are two different computers here. There's one computer, and it has a CD player, and it has a USB cord, and it has internet. access, and it's $2,000. Now, I go over to Fry's and they got a sale going on. Not only do they have a computer with DVD and USB and internet access, I get a carrying case, a laptop case, and a 6-month membership. It's also $2,000. Now, I don't really care about that other stuff. I didn't come in there looking for a carrying case. However, since you offering and it's the same price, which one would you buy, right? Real estate is the same way. It is a competition. So smart people will realize that even though I can command this, I'm actually going to ask for that. And okay, so maybe it's 4, right? I'm going to ask for that. And even though I've got a market house, I'm going to price it just below the market. And even though I know that this neighborhood is growing and this neighborhood is going to be having duplexes and $500,000 homes in the future one day, that's not what I'm going to do the property. So I'm not going to focus on what my end buyer's intentions are, and I'm going to price my home to sell. Randy, when you price your home to sell, it gets sold.
It gets sold.
Right?
It gets sold.
Because people will sell this, again, blanket story that real estate market sucks right now. Nobody's buying homes. Somebody is.
Somebody is.
Right?
Somebody is.
Because you guys see the people closing every day. So somebody is. There are sellers that are selling their home. What's the difference? Chances are it's the conversation of how did they price their home in the beginning.
You know, something that I like to think about is that what is it that if I was more so in the seller's shoes, right? And the seller's saying, hey, I want to look to sell my home. I say, or I would more so think about it like, is my home actually worth what I'm about to list it for?
Well, there's a difference between what you pay for a home, what it's worth, what people will pay, and what it will appraise to. Okay? So I like to say it's a lot like the stock market. I think I shared last season about when GameStop had that frenzy. And I went in there like a nut and purchased it, and I was all excited because at one point the stock went up, and I was making my little coin, and I took off, a little bit. I kind of grabbed a little bit. I left some in there. Well, over time, GameStop stopped, and that same stock that was once worth $70 was like worth $3, right? And I had to make a decision. Okay, am I going to ride this thing till the wheels fall? The wheels have already fallen off. So I'm going to make a decision to cut my losses and exit out of my position so that way I can use that money for something else, or I'm going to stay in it.
Right.
And the thing about cycles in real estate is that they're often 7 years, right? And you cannot time a cycle, right? By the time you think you're here, we're already going there. By the time you think we've hit the bottom, we're already going to the top. And so the goal is not for you to time the market or try to guess when it's the right time to do the market. The goal is for us to find out what needs to happen in your life. Why do you need to sell?
Why do you need to sell?
Sometimes I tell people, you probably don't need to sell your home right now. You're upside down.
Based off of the numbers that they would look to get.
Based off of the data. Real estate, I think my gift in real estate is that it's just not emotional to me. I like numbers. My parents are accountants. It's just a math equation. And because of that, we're able to help our clients make educated and informed decisions instead of emotional ones.
Right.
Right. But there's another side of that conversation, Randy, and that's for our buyers.
That's for the buyers. Now, this is what it looks like. And we like to talk about when you are looking to purchase a home, how do you make decisions? And this is what it looks like when we're actually consulting with our clients. 50% of clients make a decision within the first 3 to 5 homes, period. End of discussion. Because you do realize as you're going out and you're shopping, you're like, I like this, I love this within the home. What's happening is that you're taking it all in, you're not making a decision. So by the time you go home and you're like, which home made the most sense? Now we talk about 30% decide between the first 5 to 7 homes. So now it's like they're saying, well, I just need to see a few more. And we say, you know what? Understandable. Let's those first 5 weren't it for you. Let's go see a few more. And ideally, you look to make a decision because you understand that even if you keep shopping, that doesn't mean that the deal just magically just comes out of nowhere, right? It's based off the numbers, based off what the data of the information, it's based off what the market is showing us, period. And then 20% view 7+ homes or never find a home and decide to rent. And I think what is painful about that is because it's not to say that you were not able to find the home that you desire. It was a matter of us, more so the client, just sitting in it and saying, you know what, there's no home for me out there. And then they just decide to say, you know what, I just won't purchase.
I think that goes back into this idea of perfection and that is a perfect home. See, I choose to believe that we've got to get out of the glamour of real estate and really start looking at it as a tool. It is great that you are in love with your home and you have a dream home and that this is the home that Instagram gets excited about. However, understand that the goal of ownership serves two purposes. Number one, control. So you can control your story, being able, whether that means how much you're paying each month. See, when you don't have control, when you're a renter, and this is no shade, no judgment, but we can admit and we can both agree that when you rent, you are not in control of what that landlord does with that price.
Right.
Right? Because I see it all the time on social media. My landlord rent up in price. And then now you're faced to make a decision of even paying that or finding another place to move. Right? So there's an absence of stability and security in that. Okay. So number one, we want to get you to a position of control. Once you own, well, then now that same equity, those same price increases are actually working into your advantage. Yes, your home might go up because your taxes went up or your insurance went up. Yet doesn't that benefit you as well? If your taxes go up, it means because the value of your home went up.
Right.
And so you're in a different position. You're able to make new decisions. So when people don't decide, and I heard what you said in regards to the decision. See, people think that you've got to look at 20 homes. That to me is an absence of clarity.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Somebody has not had a conversation with you. Either we've failed at our job of understanding exactly what you are looking for, or maybe you aren't actually looking to buy a home.
I mean, you know, some people go out and car shop and they're just like, you know, I love the way that the car looks. I love the way that it smells. That's it. That's
it. Then they get to talk about prices and they're like, yeah, my car's not that bad.
Let me pump up the gas. And here's the thing too, to also mention when we talk about decisions, you're faced with two things. And the first one that we'll go over is diminishing or decision fatigue, right? And so what happens is that when you define decision fatigue, it's the mental exhaustion that occurs when making numerous decisions, leading to less effective decision making. And so when we talk about the client looking at 7+ homes because they are not able to decide based off of this is what the market is saying, and this is full bare, this is what it looks like, you can either love it or leave it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like we're rushing you into this decision. It's to say that this is the home that you told us that you wanted.
Yeah.
We found it. We took time to go and see it. Now you're in it and you're saying, I don't know. And it's like, what do you not know about?
Like, what do Randy's going to ask you, what do you not know about?
What are you unsure about, right? And the next is diminishing returns. And so what that is that the point at which additional effort yields less valuable outcomes. And so what's happening is that you're saying, okay, I need to look at 3 to 5 homes because I understand that after this 5th, 6th, maybe 7, at this point is just like, hey, let's have another come to Jesus moment because you just don't know what you want. And you know, to some people we say that's okay, and to others we say no, you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
Because either your life circumstances warrant you to say I have to do something, or it's more so like I found the home of my dreams.
Yeah, I think we're definitely stepping into a have to or want to market, right? And sometimes you want to, right? The numbers are good, the interest rates are low, and you want to buy another home and it makes sense, and you just go ahead and do it. And then there's a market where you have to. I always tell people, you know, I get this argument all the time. Why would I sell my home? I got 2% interest rate. I wouldn't do that. You would if you outgrew it. Because if you bought a townhome that's 2 bedrooms and your wife is pregnant with triplets, you'll sell it, okay? So we have to get out of the idea, number one, that real estate is a shackle. Real estate is not a shackle, it's a vehicle. And so we want to be able to get to a point where you understand how to leverage your vehicle so that way it can take you to where you actually want to go. This idea, this concept of being able to transfer equity. Randy, boom. I'll give you guys an example. I was on social media. They say go and look at the addresses that you once lived and see what they are worth now. So I had two different homes. I didn't have homes. My parents had homes. I grew up in California. So I go type in the California address. The houses were $600,000. Okay, I lived there when I was 8. Let's just say that that's not how old I am today. You can figure out how long ago that was. The house was worth $600,000. I typed in a second address from when we moved to Houston. That home was worth $250,000. I asked my father. I said, "Dad, how much did you pay for these homes?" He was like, "I think like $120,000."
Whoa.
Pause, because
It's just math.
it's just math. But house number one, he paid $120,000 for, and is now worth $600,000. House number two, he paid $120,000 for, it's now worth $250,000. Okay. My home, I purchased, I guess maybe $150,000. It's now worth $300,000. Okay, so what was my lesson? What was my aha in all of that? You can outgrow the performance of your investment. That what I learned at that second home, because it's been probably 30 years since I lived in that second home, and it's capped in its growth.
Right.
Because understand that real estate, the values are determined by what's happening around you. So if the neighborhood's not growing or appreciating, then there's nobody to pull you up. That's why we say don't be the biggest house on the block, right? Don't wait until the neighborhood is fully developed for you to go buy the new construction. Get in there early so you can take advantage of the maximum equity potential. And then once you cap out, capture that equity and transfer it to a new performing product. And that's how you see a lot of wealthy people leapfrog, because they get that first home. We say starter home. We're not saying settle. We're saying start. So that way you can flip it.
Yep.
Right? You take that $250,000 home and then you sell it and buy a $400,000 home. And then you sell it and you buy a $600,000 home. And then you sell it and you buy a $100,000 home. But now you're buying it with the house's money, because it's the market equity that's giving you that leverage and capital for you to make a bigger, more significant down payment.
And that's beautiful, though. And that's beautiful. I think where I've seen this, or where I've realized this, is when I watch my mom purchase real estate. It's really never emotional, and it's based off of probably the circumstances. However, when she purchased her first home in 2008, and then she sold it around, it was that little COVID. It was a lot going on. So when she sold it in 2020, you're seeing it. She probably purchased it, I believe, at maybe, I think it was 180. This was in Ohio, though. So she purchased it at 180, and then when she sold it, it was around maybe 265, give or take. Yeah. And so when she sold it, she's like, oh, she's running around with a 6-figure exit because of when she bought the home and for what it appreciated for and what she paid down. And you're talking about equity. You're talking about making a leapfrog. You're talking about evolving from where you're currently at to where you're going to be. And that's not even including all the years that you're working as well. Yeah. So now you got your home appreciating in value. You got yourself growing within your career, making more money. And then by the time you sell, you're sitting on X amount of savings that you worked for, that you earned. And then now you're also maybe sitting on the exit of your home as well to then purchase your next investment opportunity.
Absolutely. So when we say that it's time to make a decision, understand that, right? Not all real estate is the same. I believe that a lot of times we talk to people and they've done it. They've purchased the second home. They've been able to buy turn the first home into a rental property, and that's not really their thing either, right? But because the narrative is always buy it and don't sell it, just buy and hold, don't sell grandma's house, because that's the blanketing information. What we find is that there are other uses of that equity that could better serve us, whether it's paying down debt, moving into a different neighborhood or community, being able to fund something. We're not telling you to sell the house and waste the money, blow it in Vegas. We're saying find another investment vehicle so that way you can maximize that equity, Andy. And that's really what we want to get you guys to do. So if you have a decision to make, we definitely invite you guys to have a conversation with us, because this is what we're looking to help you guys decide. And I trust that we are in alignment with you, so that way we can understand what your goals are, so that way you can make an informed decision. Absolutely.
And I think, And I think the reason why it's so special is because you are going to look to pay that money monthly, whether that was for the mortgage or whether that was for rent. And so now it's up to us to then say, hey, you know, is this in alignment with where I want to go? And is it up to me? If it's meant to be, then it's up to me. And for me to look to change my circumstances, it's up to me to then look to purchase that home. Because now we always talk about securing your mask first. And so imagine what that looks like, saying that, hey, I have $10,000, I have $15,000, and I need to make an opportunity happen because I'm expanding. Either I just got married or you're about to have a baby and you're saying, I'm really motivated based off my circumstances to make something happen. I'm sick of renting. I've given them $20,000, $24,000. I need my own house. And just look to say that, you know what, it's time.
Yeah.
And the second that you decide and you commit to that decision, everything falls in place.
Yeah, the world falls in place. Everything else could be easier and necessary. So what does all of this have to do with everything, T. Craig? Why are we talking about both of these things? Well, number one, we want you guys to understand that nobody succeeds alone. So it's absolutely okay if this is the first time hearing this information. What we have come to understand is that we should not assume understanding from anybody about anything, right? Even in our world, in our professional world, we go around and we'll see children of people that are very intelligent and experts in this industry, and the children have no idea. And I believe that sometimes even in our community that we are assuming we understand how real estate works. In reality is that no one's actually had the conversation with you. So nobody succeeds alone. And it's important that you decide who is your tribe. Who are the people that are going to feed you in such a way that you are growing and that you are healthy and that you're joyful and abundant and living in prosperity, all the good things that you want for your life. And so, Randy, I want to give the people some homework.
Well, Chase, what does that look like?
It looks like you might want to bring out your paper and your pen. You might want to screenshot this, right? So the first thing that we talked about, you guys, is you got to get clear on who you are. It's number one because it's most important. None of this stuff matters if you don't know who you are. I promise if you look to get in business with people or find a mentor or fall in love and you don't know who you are, all of this is void. It will only last for a certain amount of time. It will only be sustainable for so long until you reach a disconnect in your spirit because you realize that I haven't done the work of figuring out what's important to me.
And once again, you know, we want to make sure that you sitting at home, watching, listening, are able to make the informed decision on who you are actually looking to be. And I, for me, like to say decision because it was something that I needed to decide and it's something that I needed to choose. And so what has helped for me in regards to realizing who I am is that I needed to write it out. For me, it was the easiest thing to do to say, okay, at the top piece of a paper, write, you know, who am I? And then write it out, write it down, and be as detailed as you need to be. It's not like these 3 things define who I am. It could be these 10 things define who I am. Now, the question that you ask is, well, how do you know? And you look to answer that question so that then it's not like this person influences me to make these type of decisions within my life. And because they influence me to such lengths, I am now living a life that they designed, not one that you or I have designed. And on top of that, it's truly something that like we always talk about commitment, but what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And how often do you revisit those topics of who I am, who you are, where you're going, where you want to be, who do you want on that boat with you, and are you actually committed to your goals, dreams, and desires?
Absolutely. And you get what you deserve in your imagination. So I think sometimes the gap between our head and a piece of paper, our heart to our head and our head to paper, is that there's a fear, there's a limiting belief of whether or not you feel like you deserve it or are capable of. People like me don't get those type of things. Who am I to earn those type of things? Who might deserve those type of things? So the reason why we're saying write it down is because we want you to challenge your limiting beliefs and dare to write the crazy. right? I think Steve Jobs said it, right? The world is given to those who dream, are crazy enough to do, right? You've got to be crazy enough to write it down. Once you get clear on who you are, this is the part that everybody loves to talk about. How can I find a mentor? Randy, I believe there are 5, 6 areas for you to look for a mentor or role model in your life. And here's the thing. You may not know these people. Okay? Randy, you got a book.
And this book is The Warren Buffett Way. And so essentially what it is that I committed to saying that I was going to study entrepreneurs or business people I wanted to be like, or be more like, right? So I chose Sam Zell, Warren Buffett, and Gary Keller, right? Like there's a certain sense of excellence that they have committed to, that they have achieved, that I also want to emulate and understand their thought process behind why they did what they did.
And I love that, Randy, because this idea that you've got to know the people, again, it's a myth, right? You may not have somebody in your life that you can go to that can truly educate and pour into you all the wisdoms of the world about financial decisions and how to make decisions in finances, right? You can get a book. So if you don't know the people, then the next question is, well, what can I read? What can I listen to help me get there, right? Now, I'm going to challenge you again, because I know you've already screenshotted this, right? Because I know that you guys are bought in and we're having a conversation. It's a real coaching moment. You guys have already done the work and put this on your paper. I challenge you to put the names of the people that you have in these spaces. Because once you put it on paper, then you can figure out what your gaps are. And so here's the thing, Randy, and I'll tell you what Gary told me. It's possible that this is not one person. Okay?
Right.
I'm not asking you to go find super person that you can model your life, that can mentor you on all of these things. Warren Buffett's really great in money, but if you study his personal life, I doubt you want to imitate that, right? So you want to find out, okay, well, who do I look towards? Who do I admire? And if it's somebody that you know, then have a conversation. Hey, can I take you out to coffee? Can I talk it out with you? How do you do that?
For me,
How do you make that decision?
So I mean, in how I've actually made the decision in choosing said part or said mentors is that I look to assess what they're doing and how they have done it. It's because as we talk about, like, success leaves clues. So then why would I not look to analyze what they've done up until this point? And another point to mention is that these mentors, for all these different areas that you're choosing to, of course, improve intentionally, dead or alive. They can be dead or alive. And so say, for example, you said, I want to be greater within my career and say, I don't want to say politics, but more so just speaking in general. Why would you not maybe look into studying Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X, right? Like, they may be passed away. However, these are influential people that have done great things in
Absolutely.
society.
Absolutely. So, in case you're part of our listening audience and you're not watching this, keep in mind that the 6 people that we are asking and charging you to find for your life are mentors: financial mentor, business mentor, career mentor, a personal mentor, physical mentor, and a spiritual mentor. This is really kind of like the full you, okay? And the possibilities are endless. And the reason why we say success leaves clues and look for the evidence in people's life is because I talk about it all the time. We are in a tell, not show society. And we have people that talk really great talks. And then you look at their life, and it's like the Wizard of Oz. And Randy, at this point, I don't even know if you've seen The Wiz, but if you haven't seen The Wiz, Dorothy goes on this long yellow brick road chasing this idea of this person who can save her. And then by the time she gets to Oz and gets past the, gatekeeper and walks in there, they send him on all these challenges, go do all this stuff. Well, she comes back and she asks for him to show up, and she realizes that it's just a big empty head. It was just a big, literally empty head. I watched The Wiz, so I'm talking about the one with Richard Pryor, not the other one. And so Richard Pryor, he's like this scraggly man laying on a twin-size bed in the back, and she's like, hello, right? And she realized that he was a phony. And he was this big, intimidating thing, this wizard. And then when she investigated, he wasn't nothing but a man with a dream. And there's nothing wrong with the dream. And that's not saying you can't hang around dreamers, but you want to find the evidence that people have shown some kind of success in this thing. And maybe they're really good here, but they're not great here. And maybe they're really great physically, and in their physical life, and they're trained, they work out, but you get to talking in their spiritual life, they all messed up. And it's like, I don't want to be like that. So understand, give yourself permission that this can be multiple people, and not all people have to be all things. And I think when you set that expectation in the beginning, you actually save yourself from disappointment. Love.
I personally look to make sure that I keep this list as, I don't want to say concise, but I really do want to say concise. I will say specific, because the thing is that for me, it may be about 1 to 3, maybe max 5 people for the friend category. It's not going to be too many, because we love to say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And yet you look at sometimes people's calendars and you're like, what you're saying is not aligning with what you're doing or who you're choosing to associate with. And so for me, I've just chose to make sure that the people that I call friends, I know that I either have a long history with them, or B, I ensure that they are consistently pushing me to be greater than what I currently am through their actions, not anything that they are saying.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you don't come from a good family, it is your responsibility to create one. We cannot lie or rely on this idea of, well, that's great for you, not everybody's lucky. That is a limiting belief that robs you from taking ownership of what you want in life. If you don't have these people in your life and it's important to you, then you must get clarity. Good friend, great mentor, Tim Heil. If you guys don't know him, Google him, look him up. And I remember he actually said that because as he began ascending in real estate, he realized not everybody, not all of his friends were meant to come to him or come with him, right? And so just like you just said, that list actually got smaller. Just like I said in the beginning, chances are the clearer on who you are, the less people will be able to fit in what that looks like. And I'm giving you permission that that's okay. They got to get rid of this idea. Hammer went broke because he brought Oakland with him. You probably don't know who Hammer is.
I know who MC Hammer is. That's what you're talking about?
Yes.
All right, cool. Gotta make sure we're on the same page. What I will say is that I want to ensure that, truly, like my friends, I look at it like this. The people that I spend the most time with, the people I give the most attention to, I want to ensure that they inspire me.
Yeah.
Right? I want to make sure that I actually feel uplifted with what they're doing. I want to make sure that it's like, I get on the phone with them and I'm like, oh, that's what you're doing? Oh, I need to kick it up a notch, because clearly either A, maybe I'm not thinking big enough, or B, it's like I'm not hanging around the right people, because clearly your circle is looking way different than mine is right now. And yet we have the same goals. So something needs to change on my end. And so maybe that is something internally, because I'm looking to be accepted from the world and then I'm not at peace with myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's powerful. And I think that, we've got to understand, it's kind of like if you go into a battle, one of us going to influence the other. And you got to ask yourself when you're sitting in these rooms, who's influencing who? It's
right.
Concept of in heaven we feed each other. If everybody at the table is eating, then that's a great influencing group to be around. But if one person's eating and another person is not, that may not be your tribe. And there's nothing wrong with that. Understand, this is not a judgment podcast, right? This is just about clarity. And so if you're going to actually be able to define what your world looks like, and I'll give you guys an example. I really kind of was able to test the quality of my friendships this past couple of weeks, because it's great when you can chop it up and key. But if you really want to know quality of your relationships, then I challenge you to share you'll notice when you struggle, right? And what kind of response do your friends give when you struggle? Okay.
Well, I mean, on my side.
Why are you laughing?
No, so look, because on my side, I'm not gonna lie to you. The friends that I associate with, is not to say they laugh, but what they do is they inspire me to say that you're going to document this moment. They know that I'm going through turmoil, so they'll document it for me, and then they'll show me a year later,
Yeah.
like, this was you. And I'll be like, why did you feel the need to do that? But it inspires me personally because it's like, though that was my, previous circumstance, it's not, no longer who I am.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that you were willing to document my turmoil to say that, look, you're not that person anymore. Let's
Yeah.
continue to move forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna challenge you to go beyond documentation. So if I share personal in my own life, this is real life, Chase. I hit a major disappointment, and I tend to not share my business, with people or the streets. And yet I was hurt, and so I needed to be able to release that. I remember I texted a friend, and I just was like, "This happened." Period. She was like, "Do you need me to call you?" And I was like, "Yes." Now these are two things that are not in my character. Number one, admitting I need help, and number two, accepting it. So we get on the phone. She's like, walk me through what happened. I talk to her.
Yeah.
I start hyperventilating. I start like all the things, right? My friend is a therapist. I didn't call her because she was a therapist. I called her because she's a friend, and I was just talking to her.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, she was like, put your hands on your head. Do this,
Yeah.
breathe. She started breathing with me, and I was like, oh, you really good at this, huh? Right? Because I never went to her for therapy, so I didn't know. And she prayed with me. She, walked me through it. She affirmed me. She edified me. She helped me see the bigger picture. And I remember thinking to myself, and I thanked her after our conversation. I said, thank you for catching me from spiraling. Thank you for catching me from falling. Because I recognized and I knew that, right, I had two options. And usually you have friends that will do one of two things. They'll pray with you or they'll drink with you. And in that moment, that was a friend that prayed. And that's what I needed, right? And so sometimes the only way you're going to know the quality of what you're doing is in those tough times.
In those
you,
tests.
You still got to make sure that you're building this up by defining this part. The fourth thing that we have is who you determine wealth for, right? You can't outgive God. I'm going to just leave it like that. There's somebody that you are meant to determine wealth for. A lot of times, Randy, I think that we get caught up again because in hell we feed ourselves, that I'm looking out for me as long as I eat. So you're not feeding anybody, but then you expect people to feed you. You determine wealth for somebody, and then there are wealth determiners for you. You don't like this part, but you love that part. You won't pay this person. Oh, shit. You won't pay this person, but you mad because people won't pay you. So I think it's important that we ask ourselves, who can I serve? And
I think, and the reason why that's so powerful is because as you look to actually go through the exercise, it's important to determine, like, you're looking to maybe earn all this money, and it's like, who are you earning all this money for? Like, and you really got to think about it, because what happens is, it's like we get so caught up in self, and it's like you forget that in servicing other people, by default, somehow you make money or you become profitable.
Yeah.
But it's only because you were looking to actually serve other people and determined why you're even working so hard. Who is it for? What are you doing all this for?
Yeah.
Especially because you're not going to leave alive.
And after a while, wealth isn't even about money. It's actually about the relationships. And I think that's why you see a lot of wealthy people that are lonely and miserable. You see a lot of people that don't necessarily have a lot of money, but they're so full of life,
Right.
because they understand that it's the relationships that's the indirect benefit,
Right.
of leading a full life, right? So I trust that this has been valuable for you guys. I want to leave you guys with a few thoughts. Definitely, we both do. So number one, I want you to remember, in heaven we feed each other, okay? So if you're hungry, check your child. Number two, you've got homework, okay? And I challenge you to go back and fill in these gaps. And the reason why we want to do this is because we want to know where you guys are. What are your challenges? Where are you finding the disconnects? And this is going to serve as a guide and a compass, so that when you do go out, Randy, we're going into the fall. This is when people start to fellowship, come together, family, Thanksgiving, right? you can ask yourself, who are the who's?
Right.
And who are the missing people? Right? So once you know which people are missing, you can actively start looking and seeking for that.
Right. And something to also keep in mind is that as you're working on the homework, if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. So whether you tag Chase or you tag myself, honestly, we are here to be of service. And so make sure that you're using your assets to the best of your ability. And
we are real people.
We're real people.
We are not influencers.
This is real deals, real people with real contracts. This is not a game.
This is
not a game.
Very important to us. We are not looking to be people that you just follow or, I don't know, watch, subscribe to, right? We actually want to have a relationship with you. We want to be one of these people.
100%. 100%. Either through mentors or one of the wealth determiners, you know what I'm saying? You gotta make sure that you're pouring into other people. So with that being said, we gotta also make sure that you subscribe. What'd you say? What?
Stay out of my business. I'm talking to them.
Another thing that you want to do is make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow, make sure you comment below. We are definitely here to empower you and the people that you are closest to.
Absolutely. And be sure to check in next week, because next week we're actually going to be talking about the lie of discipline. And it's gonna be your lane, Randy. It's gonna be all about habits, action, consistency. So I think you guys are gonna definitely want to tune in. You're gonna want to make sure that you set that reminder and don't miss it, because the second part of this conversation is this idea that people are born disciplined, and I just don't think that's true.
And we're gonna also maybe dive into nature versus nurture. And so you can kind of choose to live a life by design, or you just live a life that other people have curated for you.
Awesome. Absolutely. So thank you so much for tuning in. We are Bet on TCREG, your full service real estate advisors. We look forward to seeing you guys next week or at the closing table.
Let's get it.
All right.